Shelters overflow with unwanted pets. Spaying and neutering helps prevent this and has many health benefits too. That message courtesy of the Village Mutt at 665 East Foothill Boulevard in Claremont. For self-serve pet wash tubs and high-end food and treats for dogs and cats, featuring natural and raw. Call the Village Mutt 909-624-3020 and like them on Facebook.
What would you do if you had a broken bone? You'd go to the doctor and use your insurance, right? Well, what would you do if you have a serious problem with drugs and alcohol? Most people do nothing until it's way too late. Your insurance can help you get clean and sober with the assistance of a place like the Detox and Treatment Helpline. Many times, addiction treatment is fully covered. So why not use your insurance to treat your addiction problem just like you would if you had a broken bone? And with the Family Medical Leave Act, you're allowed to take time off by law, and your employer doesn't need to know the reason. So there are two good reasons. You've got insurance you can use for your addiction problem, and with the Family Medical Leave Act, it's completely confidential. Call now, 800-398-7414. That's 800-398-7414.
Redlands Auto Electric reminds everyone that the blood you donate gives someone another chance at life. Someday, that someone might be a friend, a loved one, or even you, so please give blood and give the gift of life. This message courtesy of Redlands Auto Electric at 1165 West Park Avenue in Redlands, known for quality, integrity, and knowledgeable service. Call 909-792-4776. Redlands Auto Electric, on the air because they care. Lord of the Rims and Tire Shop in San Bernardino says it's hard being away from home during the holidays, but even harder if you're a soldier overseas securing our freedom. Send letters and packages and say prayers for our troops overseas. Remember, they're fighting for our freedom. That's Lord of the Rims and Tire Shop at 115 East Baseline Street in San Bernardino, serving the community with great customer service and low prices. Call 909-888-9775. That's 909-888-9775. Lord of the Rims and Tire Shop is on the air because they care.
And welcome. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using a gift balance with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News, CNBC News, NBC Sports Radio Station, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Audible, T-Live, Rumble, Podchaser, Streaker, Spreaker, you name it, I'm there because there's so much bad news out there. I want to balance out bad news all the time with good news. And I want you to focus on your own reality show. So there's no gossip here, no scandal, no K words, no Kanye, formerly or now known as, because, you know, there is no, time is not a renewable energy. That's my newest thing. Once it's gone, it's gone. So it is my job. I'm on a happy 88 mission. 88 million more happy people in the next 8 years. So I have this show now for 607 consecutive weeks. This is show number 1084 or 85, I believe. And I'm so glad that you're still with me. And I'm really glad that I started this thing this year called co-hosting. And pretty much every week, every day of the week, I have a special co-host with special topics, and today is no exception. I have my newest co-host. His name is James Hawthorne, and let me tell you a little bit about him. He is an actor, host, film festival co-founder, and personal trainer. In other words, a true Angelino. He dates regularly and relationships occasionally, that's his word, his East Coast roots, where he is right now, are intertwined with 13 years of LA living for a unique perspective on all things dating and relationships. Welcome back to the studio, James Hawthorne.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Marissa. I appreciate that. It's great to be here.
It is. And where are you streaming from?
We are coming at you from McLean, Virginia, a suburb of Washington, D.C. Very rural. I've already seen fox and deer running around the yard. So something you don't see every day in Los Angeles.
Definitely. And we'll use that as your first gratitude. Those of you who are new to the show, we like to start with breakfast with my guest or co-host called Take a Bite Out of My Gratitude Sandwich. That's what we're having for breakfast. It is a discipline that I would like you to adopt, again, to balance out all that bad news out there. So what are you grateful for? If you are streaming and on my free subscribe YouTube channel, please do feel free to put comments in. Frank sometimes pops in with his own gratitude. He is my great sound engineer who I'm grateful for. That'll be my first gratitude, to have someone support me at the studio. Hashtag COVID silver lining. I'm allowed to broadcast from my loving room where you are right now, and James is allowed to do that when he's with his family on the East Coast. That's my first gratitude. James?
I am going to drop a huge bomb here. You guys are not going to believe this. All right. I am incredibly grateful for an airline. I am grateful for Alaska Airlines. I had the absolute best flight over here. They swapped me to another flight that was leaving an hour earlier. So I got to have dinner with Mom. They gave me a free fruit and cheese plate. They just gave me an exit row with a window. So I got to give props where props are due. Alaska Airlines is number one in my heart after yesterday. And during the holidays, nevertheless.
Wow. Was it just because they were being nice, or did something happen?
I mean, they were just being nice. I was walking to my gate, and I walked by the gate for the other airport that's near me. And a dear friend of mine who worked with my mom for 13 years lives by that airport. I said, you know what? Maybe I'll catch up with her. She picked me up from the airport. We had dinner together, and it was great. It's such a nice thing. And they swapped me, no questions asked, even in the middle of their boarding that flight that was already a little bit late. And, they just treated me really nice. And it was so refreshing, so unusual.
This is for Alaska Airlines. We're going to need to get them as a sponsor now. And that is exactly why we do this exercise. Instead of hearing about all the bad news about airlines and what they don't do, James is modeling what we like to do, is highlight what's good on the world, in the planet, about companies and all of that good stuff. So I am grateful for waking up knowing that everything's going to be okay, no matter what.
I love it. I am grateful for my mom's cooking. Now, she only does it one time a year. She's retired, except we have a tradition, and we do a prime rib dinner, and she makes the best prime rib. Still uses the original oven that came with this house from 1977. I don't know how that thing still works, but it produces the juiciest, most delicious prime rib you've ever seen. And I eagerly anticipate it all year long, and my mom slaves away in the kitchen all day. This year might be the day, though, where I take over the reins, and she barks out the order as the general, and I go ahead and execute. So I might be learning those prime rib making skills this year. We'll see.
That sounds like so much fun. And I got to meet your mom, I guess, 1 year at the film festival. That's where James and I know each other from way back. You just never know. And here he is now, my co-host. And I am grateful that I would say bring some back for me, but I won't be home until mid-January, because I'm grateful to be flying out this Saturday to Australia and New Zealand. I'll be speaking, teaching, book signing, and present for the birth of my favorite niece's first child. So, and I'm grateful, I'll add, that was not the plan. Like, I made the plan to go and do, tour, book, the whole thing before we even knew she was pregnant. So isn't that crazy? And her due date is right in the middle of the trip.
I'm jealous for you, but in that good, healthy way, because like you've just sparked my wanderlust. I want to go see the world in this upcoming year. That's for sure.
So excited. Go ahead.
Here's another weird one for everybody. I'm grateful for Tom Cruise. Why? On the flight, I finally caught up on a couple movies. I saw his latest Mission Impossible Part 1. My jaw hit the floor. This guy's like 61, 60 years old, sacrificing his body, doing his own stunts, and I'm blown away. I mean, I look at that and I'm like, okay, if you really want to like take your career, whatever it is, to like the ultimate level, he's a great example. I mean, of like how much he gives just so that we can be entertained and get an adrenaline rush while flying cross country, right?
Abs-
I just, as a fellow actor and host, I'm like, okay, that's a level to aspire towards.
Absolutely. And I've actually heard, I have not had the pleasure of interviewing him, but like John Travolta, who gets a lot of bad press, Tom Cruise gets a lot of bad
Yeah.
press. And I met someone who did interview him and said, oh, it was one of my guests. Oh, forget the name, but they are like 25 year. They're in the Radio Hall of Fame. They're also Mark and Ken. It was, do you remember Mark and Ken? Well, you may not because you're not from LA originally, but they were huge radio hosts. And they were telling me, I asked them who their favorite guest was or who the one they remember the most. And they said, you know, Tom Cruise came in versus Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson came in with his entourage, not very friendly, not, you know, just sort of came in, did everything, and then left. And he said that Tom Cruise came in and he had like a whole host of people lined up when they found out he was in the building. And he did not leave until he had greeted or signed or said hello to every single person in the hallway that had come and lined up, like 70 people. And he was gracious, didn't come with a bodyguard entourage, all that. He was just himself. And that made an impression on me. So, yeah, not only he is really great at his craft, he's a good person too.
You know, I've heard that, and he actually came and spoke at our acting school, which is like, what? So, you know, at the graduation for some of the students, the alumni can go and watch, and he actually came and gave a speech to encourage the students in their careers now that they had, you know, completed the program. And that's kind of mind blowing that he took time out of his day to do that. So regardless of all the other stuff outside of his craft, I mean, just from a generosity of spirit and, you know, his commitment to his craft, I think those are things that we can all aspire towards. You know, yeah, as they say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Whatever else he's doing, whatever. The stuff that resonates with me is the quality of character and the commitment to craft. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's see, gratitude. What did I have? One more gratitude. I did, but I forgot it. So we'll just go down to the bottom of the button because James likes it on the bottom. No, well, that's rumor has it, and I'm just teasing. And Mom, I know you're probably listening, and Auntie, this is straight talk, which means that I get to be a little bit risque, and I love triple entendres. Don't worry, you know, I'm all talk. Number one, let's just put that was on the table. I am all talk, and my bite is I don't have a bite. So there you go.
Bottoms up.
But that's you, because I like it on the bottom too. Oh, do you like my? Look at this. See if you
Yes. Yes, yeah. You showed us last week, and I like him better this week because the cup runneth over this week.
Yes, and it matches my outfit. So, bottom of the bun is appreciation. What do you like about yourself? Why do I ask you to do this? Because a lot of us, if I asked you, how often, you know, do you approve of yourself? A lot of people would say, oh, it's so hard to take a compliment. If I get 99 compliments and one criticism, I keep playing that over like a broken record. And it's the good news is you're not alone. The bad news is you're not alone. And so I really want us to take some responsibility for our own mental health And the way we do that is to learn how to self-care. So this exercise on the bottom is to say, what things do I like about myself? I'm not perfect, but there's at least 88% of the things about me that are actually not too bad. And I want us to highlight those so we're not going out into the world looking for love in all the wrong places. So that's why we do this. I'll start. I appreciate that I 88% of the time see the best out of people, places, and things. 88% of the time.
You know, you actually stole one of mine. I'm in the same boat. And you know what, to be honest with you, sometimes it's gotten me into some trouble where I've been burned by that. But I'd much rather get burned by a person who chooses to take advantage of that than go through life constantly white knuckling it, afraid of how somebody is going to mistreat or hurt or take advantage of. So I'd much rather have the joy that comes with just looking at the world and people with that positive light and giving them the benefit of the doubt, even if sometimes it does result in my detriment every once in a while. The juice is worth the squeeze on that one.
Ooh, I like that. I appreciate that I tell pretty good jokes. Most of them are risque, so we won't tell them on the air. But I'm a
Well,
pretty good.
go for it. It's the holiday season. That's one way people, if anybody's having a rough holiday season, jokes is one way, you know. Copious amounts of booze and sweets eating is the other, but jokes is the third.
Well, the what my favorite clean joke is there's a family of tomatoes and they're crossing the street, and you know those signs where it's got the family and they're holding the kid's hand, they're running, and so it's like that. So Papa, Mama, sister, brother, baby, tomato. So they're running across the street, and just as Dad turns around and sees the a truck run over the baby tomato, he says, "Catch up."
Now I'm going to throw the moose on the table with that one. The first time I heard that joke was Uma Thurman in Pulp Fiction.
That's from Pulp Fiction.
That was right. Well, I don't know if it's from Pulp Fiction, but the first time I heard it was there, and it was right after Travolta had to stab her in the chest with the adrenaline needle after the accidental heroin overdose, and after like this night where he was like freaking out, he thought he killed his boss's wife. She says, "Hey, you want to hear a joke?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And that's the joke that she tells in Pulp Fiction.
Oh my gosh, I never knew where I got that from, but I thought it was the funniest and cutest joke.
It's a
And
cute
the
joke.
only clean joke that I have. All right. What do you like about yourself, James?
I like my ability to sort things out clearly. Like I'm taking inventory. So I'll give it some context. End of the year, I like to take inventory, relationships, things that went well, life skills that maybe I need to improve. And so, when I try to chart all that out and make sense of certain things, I like my ability to kind of go from the top to the bottom and logically kind of go through and take a good inventory, because it gives me like a nice solid um, jumping off springboard to jump off and do better in the following year. So I like my ability to do that. I was doing some this morning, actually.
Oh, cool. And we're going to be doing some of that on the show today.
Yeah.
And that's the topic that James picked. But let's finish off breakfast and then we'll jump into that. Last appreciation. I appreciate my ability to act on my own behalf. Sometimes I'm pretty hard on myself, or I think there's something wrong. I had a discussion after my guests on Tuesday, who were experts on sexual intimacy, spirituality, and I was pretty bagging on myself and they were kind of surprised. They're like, "Wow, you really, live out loud." And I was critical of myself, and afterwards she's like, "Well, you could work on this, you could work on that." And after you know that day, I realized that once again I am like way too hard on myself. Like I'm okay. Like I'm really okay. And there's nothing wrong with me. But that habit to see that there's something wrong with me, or I need help with this, or I don't know about that. Not to say that I don't have things to learn, but I'm so quick to take something that I don't know and automatically assume that I don't know what I'm doing or I don't know who I am. And, I don't need to fix that. There's nothing to fix there. And oh, I feel good just saying that because I'm really practicing what I teach. Take my advice, I'm not using it. And allowing myself to be okay.
I love that. I mean, the journey is the thing. You don't, just because we might not be as good at certain things as we ultimately want to be, giving yourself permission to be okay with where you're at is huge. There was this saying that a friend of mine taught me. He's a swim coach, and he picked it up from another swim coach. It goes, well, he says to the team after a tough, meet loss, says, well, we ain't where we want to be. We ain't where we ought to be, but we ain't where we used to be, and we ain't where we're gonna be. And I think that just pretty much encapsulates life in a nutshell, no matter what trait you're talking about or what it is you're working on.
Yeah, I'm going to break that down because I want to remember that.
While you do that, I'll finish off the appreciation
please.
if you'd like.
Go ahead.
Yeah, for me, it's I'm just really glad that I'm not a shy person. I was talking to a friend of mine who's very shy about approaching girls at a bar. He doesn't know what to say, what to do. And I have no problem walking up to anybody and saying anything to them. And some people look at me funny when I do that, but because they're like, wait, who are you? You're acting like you know me. And I'm like, well, I don't yet, but I'm going to get to know you because that's the kind of person I am. I have had so many cool conversations, met so many awesome people. Yes, I'm going to put the moose on the table. Have had lots of great sex because of my ability to just walk up to people and say, hey, how you doing? What's going on? And, just talk to them, So I like that I don't have that shyness affliction. And I'm grateful for my parents. When I was a little kid, they used to always take me out instead of leaving me home with babysitters. So they taught me how to be an adult and not be afraid of, how to approach people. And they always wanted me to be well-mannered, but the most important thing is they wanted me to speak up.
Good. And you do that. And it's a wonderful quality to have as my co-host on Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
James Hawthorne. Sorry about that. Well, one of the things about being at your mom's house is sometimes the phone rings, but we'll keep
no
the interference is few and far between.
Yeah, no worries. Did I get this right? You ain't where you want to be. You ain't where you ought to be, but you ain't where you were, and you ain't where you're going.
But you ain't where you used to be. Instead of were.
Okay.
You want to stick with that format, right? But you got the gist of it.
I got the gist of it. Good, because I like that. Because again, it is so important to be okay where you are. It reminds me of a saying, I think it was Meister Tolle, who said there are the three words that are the secret to happiness. There's three words. What do you think they are? When people say love or joy or peace or I love you, it's actually one with life. If you can be one with life, wherever you are, exactly where you are, you can be happy because then nothing's going to rock your, happiness boat.
Or as they probably say in Texas, be where your butt is.
That's cute. All right. And that's it for Breakfast with Dr. Marissa and
James Hawthorne.
We are here just having a great time this morning, kind of chillaxing in loving rooms, East Coast, West Coast connection. And I hit that button too fast. If you've just tuned in and wondering what's going on in studio, it is Thursday special series, Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
James Hawthorne.
We just had breakfast. So now we're on to the topic of the day, which is
we're going to talk about resolutions for your relationships, romantic, friendship, family, whatever they may be. And we might even get into our thoughts on, what society's resolutions can be so that we live more harmoniously together. What's something that we all probably could do a little more of to get along better in this upcoming year?
Sounds great. I'm curious what your self-improvement exercise to get a little peek into what you were doing this morning. Sounds like a great exercise. And particularly, I want to hear the balance between wanting to improve and also approving of where you are.
Yes. Well, so this morning, right, I was taking inventory of a difficult relationship I had with a roommate, and he recently left, and so we were um, the, the dust hasn't settled yet, and I wanted to find some peace around that. So I really wanted to just sort of think about or take inventory of where am I at, like how am I feeling? And sometimes I'm not immediately aware of how I'm feeling. I have to, because I'm a head first kind of person, so I have to carve out that space, and writing things down slows down the thoughts enough because you can't write as fast as you can think. So it slows things down enough for things to kind of marinate, and for the jus to drip from the meat. And so I start to figure out kind of how I feel about things, take inventory, how will I be with this person moving forward, now that the conflict has been resolved. And that was the exercise I was taking inventory of this morning, how that went down, how I feel about it, and what I want to do about it moving forward so that it remains a healthy relationship, even though it's no longer a roommate relationship.
Mm, great. Saying hi to Cashew Gallery. Orville Nation is streaming in from Portugal. Hey, hey,
Ooh, welcome.
Sue. We're talking about relationship resolution. So, do you have one? I know that Orville PJ is married, so maybe we're doing a little self reflection here. And it sounds like you are taking responsibility, James, for your dis-ease, which is really good thing because a lot of us, when we're not comfortable or have what I call the worst kind of resentment, my bonus dad calls it the worst kind of resentment, is righteous indignation, right?
Hmm.
You have a reason to be pissed off, and then you stoke the flame of it and becomes this entity of righteous indignation. um, how do you soothe yourself out of that? Because regardless, if you have the right to be pissed, okay, but you're still pissed, whether you
Right,
had the right to be pissed or or you're out of line being pissed. It's still pissed is still pissed, and
right,
pissed is a temporarily good feeling. It does feel good sometimes when you're really pissed off to whack. I'll remember this one exercise, and I just took all my pent up stuff, and I took a plastic bat that was in this therapist's office and whacked it up against a leather couch, and it felt so good. Or I'll bite my pillow, or I'll like take an empty Kleenex box and just stomp on it, or egg carton. Those are the times where I allow myself to feel that rage safely, and it's okay and it's good. In my book, it's good to do that short time, you know, and then realize that I can't control what others are doing, or it sounds like, what you happened with your roommate. It's out of your control. You can't make them sorry, right? Usually when you're pissed off, you want them to be sorry. Even if they did apologize, you probably wouldn't even believe it, right? When someone's saying that. So how do we manage that kind of stuff is so important to learn. We don't go to class for that. Nobody tells you in school. They just say go to the principal's office, right?
Well, yeah,
Or
you're taught that it's not okay to be mad, and it's not okay to be sad, and you're supposed to be happy all the time and get on medicine if you're not. And I mean, now that said, I take a low dose of anti-anxiety, antidepressant meds, and I'm grateful for them. But we have to give ourselves permission to vent. I mean, you got to let it out. You got to vent, as long as you do it in a healthy way that's not harming others. Pro tip for those who might be listening in Los Angeles: there are batting cages in Sherman Oaks, in Burbank, in Venice, and boy, does that feel good. And hey, if you're not good at eye-hand coordination, hey, it's another skill you can pick up and learn. But God, it feels so good to just connect with that ball and And hey, you're also getting a workout in too while you're venting. So that's something that I like to do. I think it's wonderful.
Great tip. I uh, Golf is not my thing, but some people have said swinging the golf club is like doing the bat. Um, I I played tennis, and that used to. Although my hips don't lie now, I've had 2 hip replacements, so I don't do high impact anything. But I will do stairs, and I'll stomp on the stairs with the person's face on the step. And that is a safe way for me to release that. We just don't want to make it into a habit, right?
Right.
If it goes beyond, let it out and then get over it. If you have to let it out or it sits inside and gets infected. But once you let it out, don't keep, it alive by calling someone and talking about it, even journaling. I'm a big sometimes it's not good to keep hashing it out, either writing about it, staying up till 3 in the morning, writing a letter or whatever. Just let it out and then let it go. Let it go. Yeah, that's my favorite theme song.
Staying busy, like once you get it out, stay busy, because they say idle hands are the devil's playground. Well, in this day and age, I think it's idle minds. So
Mhm.
stay busy. Don't let that thought cycle keep going, keep spinning. You stay, once you let it out, staying busy is not a distraction anymore. It's moving on,
Yeah,
being productive.
yeah. It also helps with what I call the strategy, the art of neglect. Some things are just better left unthought, right?
That's true. That's
Unsaid
true.
or unthought. If you stop thinking about it, you'll stop thinking about it. But if you keep thinking about it, you'll keep thinking about it. Ooh, that's new.
Well, one of my COVID projects was therapy. I hadn't done any talk therapy in a really long time. I was sorting through a relationship that had me all kind of messed up, and I feel like, what, I could really look under the hood and see what's going on, because it's been a minute. And how did I know when I was done with therapy? When talking about it felt like pulling teeth, whereas it used to feel like a venting release. And that was, I think, my signal to myself that, okay, already, you did it, you unpacked it all. Now it's good. Just do the yard sale and move on. You
Yes.
unpack the attic. Now put it out in the yard and ship it off.
And that's exactly why I don't have, I purposely chose not to go into traditional therapy, traditional, as a psychologist, because of the BS belief system that it's a lifetime of work. I'm not saying all therapists like that, but I had a guest, Marissa Peer. We get introduced with the wrong introduction sometimes when we share a stage at events. But her rapid transformational therapy is exactly my alley of happiness coaching. Like her modality is very focused, very lasered. You don't have to spend, 10 years working through something. What happened to you, which happens to 7 out of 10 of us, um, was horrible and you had nothing to do with it in the past. So quit beating yourself up about that, or trying to make someone do something different or apologize for what was done. But it is your responsibility whether you drag all that crap, oversized baggage, into your economy seat or into, first class to project into the future. That's on you, right?
Right. Well, once I had the breakthrough that I didn't have to do that, and we got to that place where it felt true, organic, and real to let it go. And once I had truly had a paradigm shift, forgave myself for things, forgave others for other things. Once that happened, the work was done, and it was time to get on with life.
Yeah, yeah, such an important thing. So a resolution around this for
Hmm.
relationship. If you, and I'll do a practical application. Um, you know, if there is a betrayal of trust, if there is a disappointment on expectations, if there is a perceived or real rejection. So how long are you going to have that, noose around your relationship? If you cannot let it go, then maybe that's not the relationship you want to be in. Because if you're constantly, you know, being reminded because you remind yourself, right? I had a guest on Todd Krieger, and the topic was, can you forgive someone after they've cheated on you in a relationship? Certainly, no one wants to cheat. I mean, why get married if you know you're going to cheat? But cheating happens, betrayal happens, abandonment happens, disappointments happen. Um, can you let stuff go, right? In a relationship, that would be part of a resolution. Is that, if something has happened and you're continually mad and bitter about what happened and you can't let it go, maybe the resolution is, this next year I'm going to purposely decide that they've done enough apologizing, you've done enough suffering from what happened, and now it's going to be a new lease. We're starting in new terms. We're going to see how this year goes without bringing that up again, or blaming, or shaming, or saying to yourself, if I was good enough, he wouldn't have done that. That is bullshit hockey. We cannot control what people do. We can control how we react to what people do.
Right. Right. That's it. That's it. And I think that helps with forgiveness as well, and not taking things personally, because you can't, sometimes we want to be treated in a certain way, or we need something so bad that without even being aware of it, we can manipulate the other person, trying to get them to behave in a way that suits us. And that is such a fool's errand, because then the other person feels, toyed with, and we're doing something that we really should have no control over. I like to really give people now, in my old, as I've gotten older, give people free agency and just see what they do, and because I really want to see what comes back to me with a total hands off. And, that lets me really get to know who they are, I think, in a more intimate way. So it's, yes, I know what I need and what I want. And I think it's important to stay in touch with that, but to not try and affect that in another person, I think is the line. For me, I know that one resolution I have is to try and give, people my heart in a very open way. Because that's something, for whatever reason, and this maybe the next time I go to therapy, we'll keep unpacking it. Trust issues. I want to allow people, permission to hold my heart, and whatever they do with it is fine. My heart can take it. I can handle it. So reminding myself that I can handle anything. So why not give, whoever I decide I want to date next, why not give them the privilege of holding this precious thing? Because I think that's how the deepest love can grow. I believe that to be true. And I would like to give myself a chance to feel that and experience it. So you know how the saying goes, dance like no one's watching, love like you've never been heard. And there's a third one, laugh till you cry. I don't know. But that's the idea. That's probably my biggest resolution going into this year for
Oh,
me
that's a
personally.
great resolution. I don't know if I'm there yet, but I will absolutely support you in, I say often, no one can break your heart. When people come to me and say, my heart was broken when I was 18 or 16, and it's like, you now have 40 years of relationships that have, been derailed because of that thing that happened to you when you were 18. Like, that is such a, really, no one can break your heart. It may feel like it. I'll give you that. It may feel like that, but it's your heart, and it is strong, and it is resilient, and it is growing, and it is part of your balance centered self. And if you can take that chance to put it out there, regardless of potential rejection, potential, upset, potential pissed off, potential perceived trampling. Again, nobody can really do that unless you participate in that. If you leave it there to be trampled and you think it's been trampled, then it's trampled. A belief is a thought you just keep thinking. So
I
I
think
would
the Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I think the framing of it is so important because it's one thing you hear the expression, oh, you got to protect your heart first. You got to guard your heart. Well, that's a defensive stance. What if instead it's a positive thing where you say, no, 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 I'm going to love myself enough so that I can be free and open with my heart. And then if my heart hurts because of the bad deeds of somebody else, I'm okay because, I honor my truth. I love myself. I hold true to my standards, what I expect of people, but I'm not going to guard and protect this because I need this out there to be able to receive all the good things. So I think being mindful of the way that you frame things going into relationship, can really help you stay happy and not in a defensive, scared stance.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so glad we're talking about this. This is deep. If you've just tuned in and you're wondering what's going on in studio today, this is Take My Advice. I'm not using Get Balance with Dr. Marissa, the morning show on NBC News Radio KCAA, celebrating 25 years, home to the Asian Okra, and the station that leaves no listener behind. And it is Thursday, so we have our very special series called Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
James Hawthorne.
and you can tune in right now. If you're driving, please do not go and start chatting. But once you land, go and free subscribe to my YouTube channel, and which is now hit that milestone over 2,000 subscribers, thanks to Orville Nation's encouragement. And 300, we're over 303,000 views now. I think 304,000 actually. So very grateful for that. We're talking about resolutions for our relationships, and pretty much it's about ourselves in a relationship. And I think the most important thing that I've heard from James today is that ability to put your heart out there. I'm good at knowing I can't break my heart won't be broken, but I'm not so good at actually wanting to put it out there. And I think my process this year has been so flashlighty on how my BS, my belief systems about relationships, and in particular, I'm a student of Abraham Hicks' law of attraction, and he/she will agree with what you're saying around I was getting caught up in, okay, I like this, I don't like this, I like this, I don't like this. And so as soon as someone shows me something that I don't like, I go somewhere else. And I just heard her say, you can do that, but you're still conditional. Like you're still, you want certain conditions to be okay. Can you just be with people, and when they show you something that you're not crazy about, can you just still stay and not be rocked off your boat and allow them to be who they are? And I would say, no, why bother, right? But then what I'm missing is what you're saying, is then I'm missing the opportunity there might be some, good, nice, sweet stuff there that I just have dismissed because I'm not available.
Right.
So that is, I have to believe with my innermost conviction that there is something of value in an intimate relationship. And until I believe that, I'm not putting myself out there.
I think that's a fair boundary. I think something that all of us can benefit from is, patience. I feel like I have so many conversations with friends, that are dating, and they're like, oh, the show Seinfeld, Jerry Seinfeld used to be the worst with it. He'd be like, nope, I can't do it. She's got man hands. Or no, I can't do it. She wore the same dress to 2 consecutive dates. What does that mean? Does she have a closet full of the same thing? I can't take it. I'm breaking up with her. So I mean, we're so easily to put it though in the serious context. If I hear this word triggered one more time, I'm going to lose it. There are people who have real trauma. I get it, but it's being overused. I believe. I mean,
Is
you
your
know,
trigger?
yeah, if some, okay, you can be irritated by something. You might find something a little bit unagreeable, but is that enough? Are you just going to throw the whole thing out because of, one thing that you don't like? I mean, unless it's something that's like morally offensive or, something that goes against a core value, like just chill out. And
I
and
hear you.
who the heck are you to
I,
say that your way is so much better than theirs? And so there's a lot of self-righteousness, and there's a lot of be aware, be conscious, but let's not be overly sensitive and touchy, huh? That would be my hope for all of us in society. And when I've gone on dates and had conversations and had to smile and nod, but I'm like, okay, so yeah, so that's why you're so upset. Okay. I listen, I try to understand, but that's something that just gets my gears going, grinds my gears.
I'm in the same, but you're preaching to the choir. If I hear one more time, you hurt my feelings. That just drives me to the moon. You
Yeah.
know, and when people say, "Oh, talk about how it hurt," how did that hurt you, or how? I'm like, oh, that drives me. That's my trick. It's like own the impact. You soothe yourself, right? It's not their job. It's not your job. It's not my job to make you feel good. That's your job. You're the boss of if you feel good or not. Now that's advanced humaning because we grow up thinking that I was told you make me angry, right?
Right.
You are hurting my feelings. You're not supposed to do that. So we grow up thinking we are influent. We have the power to make you mad, sad, hurt, all of that. And advanced life for me is no, you. I've not taken this challenge yet, but almost to be able to say to my kids, you can do whatever you want. It is not your job to make me happy. It's not your job to make me whole or feel good. It's not your job. It's my job to make me feel good the way that I know I take that responsibility. My responsibility to make myself feel good. That's a hugely different construct to live with in relationships or even with yourself.
But at the same time, though, I think it's important to communicate to people when they're doing things that don't feel good to you. So I think the way, once again, getting back to this idea of framing things in a way that's more constructive, it would be like calling that person out and saying, hey, you're doing this behavior. And when you're doing that, it upsets me. Like, so it's not like saying you are upsetting me. It's creating that second thing. Like, you're doing this thing or you're saying this thing. I don't like it. When you do that, I start to feel, this kind of way. Can you stop doing that? Can you stop saying that? Might you consider trying another way? Right. I think there has to be a way to communicate that with people, but I think it's creating that second step of, I am responsible for my feelings, but you are responsible for your actions, you know?
Yes and no, because if I have, if it, is it more important for me to remove my own chip from my shoulder, not leave my goat out to get,
Hmm.
okay, to manage my own triggers? Isn't that more important than for me to ask you to change what you're doing? There's a very fine line there. Otherwise, I'm always going to be not happy with how people are people. And 80% of the time, if we get along 80% of the time and then we have 20% of the time differences, do I really need to tell you how to change that part of you so that I can be 100% happy? No. It's more important for me to go, okay, that really pissed me off. And he has a tendency to do that, drives me crazy. But look at all the ways in which he is awesome, right?
Yeah.
That's just part of him. And he's never going to be. Now, I just came up to that, not in a romantic relationship, met a new person, lovely person, started to go out. And she's not an East Coast planner, very flexible, spontaneous, and will make plans with me and then say can't do it. Good reasons. That drives me crazy. I'm an East Coaster. Time is a non-renewable energy. I have things that I have planned. And so I got mad at her, but instead of dropping her, which is what I usually would do, is go, okay, that's just, there's other benefits of the relationship that I'm going to focus on and not take it personally. That's not easy because my past has been, if you if you're not fitting like 50-50, I can't do it, right?
Yeah.
But I'm learning, that's my resolution, is to not take it personally. I just did a show on rejection. There's a part of me because of how I grew up. That's a trigger. Sorry, it's not a trigger, but it's an awareness of that's not her stuff. That's my stuff. And I finish that, right? Not everybody is going to run on my schedule.
Now, I certainly agree with taking responsibility and making sure that you're not acting out of a chip on your shoulder. But if it's something, a small annoyance, and if it's something that's not, for me, the distinction is it something that's fundamental to their character? And if it's something that's fundamental to their character that I find really just like something that just keeps upsetting me, at that point, I just chalk that up to incompatibility. So I would not bring it up at that point because I would say, well, look, it's who they are, and so we're
Being
just
late,
not compatible.
being late, not texting back, that kind of is personality, right?
Yeah, you just have to choose to either accept it or not. And if it's fundamental to their character, I'm probably not going to bring it up. But if it's just a behavior, or like a thing that they do as opposed to something fundamental to who they are, or a manner in which that they're talking that's, it's offensive, I think it's perfectly healthy to communicate that, not in a, oh, you better stop it because you're hurting my feelings, but it's okay to communicate it and say, hey, you know what? My response to this when you do that is that. I invite you to try another way. You don't have to, but I would sure like it if you gave it a shot. I think it's fair to ask for that in a friendship, in a relationship. You can go too far with it. I have a friend who I feel like picks at me for every little thing, and I don't feel like he holds other people to the same standard, and that really bothers me. And he says it's because he says, well, I know the other people aren't capable of making the changes. So, but I know you can. I said, well, that's a nice vote of encouragement, but it makes me feel like I'm walking on eggshells when you're picking apart every little thing. So, to your point, you don't have to call out every little thing, but if it's something that's really getting you, I think you have to talk about it for the health of the relationship. Give that person a chance to honor you.
Yeah, and that's my balance. That's what you know when to hold and when to fold,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I have to manage, how wide my hula hoop is, right? How much of the responsibility do I need to hold within my space, and how much of it is, you know, um, just leave, right? But I do know that I'm a fast leaver, right? And so when you're anything in the extreme, you may need to balance out. There's people who stay too long, and there's some people who don't stay long enough. I definitely am in the latter category.
My second major resolution is to find that balance. I am so good slash bad, depending on how you frame it, at going on 1 to 2 dates and that's it. But for me, it's not because I'm throwing out the other person because of some little thing. It's more if I don't feel that spark. If we're talking about dating, I would rather go on a new date with somebody else if after spending 4 hours with them, call it 2 dinner dates or whatever it might be, if I'm not feeling that spark, time to move on. So, and that's my East Coast. But, I think
But
that
I
there's,
don't think there's anything wrong with that.
yeah,
And maybe that's why I'm single. But
you and me both. You and
I
me both, honey.
I know, but it was so bad that whole run up, that whole foreplay, shock and up. That's why I don't even use the apps because it's a waste of time. I would rather and this is ridiculous. Like if someone asked me out, like this guy hit me up at a Costco doing gas. It was, and he's like, hey, we should go get a drink sometime. And I don't drink, number one, but it's like it was nice. It was a compliment. I'm not saying that it wasn't, but it's like I don't even have the time to go and sit through an entire dinner, right? To see if there's chemistry or not. Like if there's a spark, let's just I mean, if I see you and it's no wonder I'm single, I'll tell someone, meet me at the Starbucks, plant one on me, and if there's sparks, let's sit down and keep talking.
I love that. I mean, that's bold. I love it. You're like, let's put the moose on the table. Let's get right to the point.
Right.
Well, geez, Dr. Marissa, aren't we the blind leading the blind? But hey, it sure makes for interesting conversation on dating, doesn't it?
Oh, I'm getting the 2-minute signal from Frank, so we're gonna have to wrap up. But this was really good. I think I enjoyed this conversation so much. You are the perfect co-host for me to be able to be honest and at the same time, own up to, my BS, my belief systems that may or may not be getting in my way. Thank you so much, James, for joining me.
Thank you, Marissa. This is like free therapy for me.
best holiday ever. Safe travels. I'm glad that you hope all your travels are like James's on Alaska Airlines, and just wishing everybody a very, 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 very beautifully easy conversation, full of spark life in your relationships. It's all about balance, peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live with James Hawthorne, wishing you the best day ever. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
KCAA Loma Linda.